Hey, my name is Ethan. I'm 27. 3 months ago, I was just a broke sound editor renting the apartment above my landlord's garage. Then one afternoon, she showed up at my door in a wedding dress, mascara streaking down her face, white satin dragging on the wooden stairs. She said, "I couldn't say I do to him." I asked, "Why not?" What she told me in that cramped apartment. What happened between us that day. It turned everything into a secret we've been circling ever since. If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from in the comments. Because I still don't know if what we did was wrong. I moved into the apartment above her garage on a Tuesday in late spring. 27 years old. Freelance sound editor. 3,000 in the bank, and twice that in student loans. My entire life packed into cardboard boxes that smelled like the basement I'd been storing them in. Claire Whitmore opened the back door before I even knocked. Crisp white blouse, hair pinned up, the kind of put-together that made me immediately aware of my worn jeans and the coffee stain on my shirt. "You must be Ethan," she said. Warm smile, professional handshake. "Let me show you the space." The stairs were wooden, narrow. They creaked under my weight as I followed her up, counting each sound without meaning to. 15 steps. The apartment was small, kitchenette in one corner, bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. But the light was good. The rent was half what I'd been paying to share a moldy 2-bedroom across town. "No loud music after 10, she said, walking through the space like she was giving a tour to a stranger, not someone who'd be living 15 feet from her bedroom window. "Parking on the right side of the driveway, and please don't block the recycling bins on Thursdays." I noticed her car in the driveway. Expensive SUV. Silver. My hatchback looked like something that had died next to it. "I'm a wedding planner," she explained, when she caught me looking at the framed photos in her kitchen through the open back door. Her in a black dress at a beach. Her with a man at various ceremonies. "I work from home mostly. You won't even know I'm here." "I do sound editing," I said. "Headphones. Quiet." She smiled at that. "Perfect." An older woman walked by with a small dog, stopped at the fence. "Claire, dear, who's the young man?" "New tenant, Mrs. Klein. Ethan Ward." Mrs. Klein looked me up and down in a way that felt like being scanned at airport security. "How nice. Another set of hands around the house." "Just the tenant," Claire said, voice pleasant but firm. After Mrs. Klein left, Claire helped me carry a light box up the stairs, insisted on it even though I said I could manage. "I'm used to carrying other people's days," she said. That first night, I lay on my cheap mattress, staring at the ceiling. The building made sounds I didn't know yet. Creaks, distant traffic hum, a muffled television from somewhere below. I heard the soft click of her porch light switching off around 11. I wondered who she was when nobody was watching. The smell of coffee woke me the next morning. I looked out my small window and saw Claire loading white boxes into her car. Heels clicking on the driveway. Hair perfect. Gone before I even got dressed. I took the trash out around 9. Got the timing wrong. A woman across the street waved at me from her porch. Coffee mug in hand. Dark hair. Broad smile. "You're the new tenant," she called out. Yeah. "I'm Melissa, Claire's friend." She walked over, barefoot on the dewy grass. "Welcome to the street. Fair warning, Mrs. Klein will know your entire life story by Friday." I laughed. "Already met her." Melissa glanced at Claire's empty driveway. "Claire work you hard yet? She's got her whole business running out of that house. Wedding planner. Very good at it. Very—" She paused, searched for the word. "Contained." "Contained? You'll see." Melissa took a sip of coffee. Her husband died 3 years ago, Heart attack. She threw herself into work after. Haven't seen her slow down since. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. That afternoon I went to the studio. My coworker Liam was there. 29, talks too much. Good guy. How's the new place? He asked. Small, cheap, above a rich lady's garage. Liam grinned. Rich lady landlord. That's a setup for something. It's not. I'm just saying, don't flirt with the woman who controls your rent. I hadn't even thought about it like that. But now I did. That evening, Claire knocked on my door. She held a plastic container with aluminum foil on top. Leftover pasta, she said. Welcome gift. I took it. Our hands brushed. Hers were cold. Thank you. You didn't have to. I made too much anyway. She glanced past me into my apartment, saw my mismatched furniture, my old couch, the kitchenette I'd barely unpacked. You getting settled okay? Yeah, it's good. She wore a necklace, thin chain. I noticed a simple band hanging from it, wedding ring, not on her finger, on the chain. She caught me noticing, didn't say anything. I'll let you eat, she said. Smiled. Left. I heated the pasta, ate it alone on my couch. Below me, I could hear her voice on a phone call. Faint, laughing at something someone said. I stared out at the porch light reflecting off puddles in the driveway. It felt like watching someone else's life through glass. A week later, Claire was loading flowers into her car early on a Saturday morning. I was bringing laundry down. Offered to help without thinking. She hesitated. Then nodded. Actually, yes, thank you. While we loaded, she mentioned her videographer canceled last minute. Big wedding. No backup. I do some video work, I said. Mostly audio, but I know my way around a camera. She looked at me. Really looked. You serious? Yeah. I can't pay much, but I'll take $100 off next month's rent. I said yes before she finished the sentence. The wedding was at a country club. Big white tent. Flowers everywhere. I'd never seen Claire work before. She moved through that space like someone conducting an orchestra. Headset on. Clipboard. Directing staff with this calm authority that didn't match the woman who'd fumbled with pasta containers at my door. That's when I met Richard. Tall, older, 50-something, surgeon. I knew the type immediately. Confident handshake, expensive watch. He greeted Claire with a hand on her elbow. Familiar, comfortable. Claire, darling, she introduced me. This is Ethan. He's helping with video today. Richard smiled. Ah, the tenant. Heard about you. Nice of you to help out with Claire's little projects. Little projects. I smiled back, said nothing. Throughout the ceremony, I caught Claire glancing at me while she worked. Small looks, checking if I needed anything. Once she touched my arm lightly when thanking me for adjusting a microphone stand. On the drive back, I rode with her, my equipment in her trunk. We were both exhausted. You're good at this, I said. At what? Making other people's biggest days perfect. She was quiet for a moment, hands on the wheel. It's easier than making my own days make sense. I didn't know what to say to that. That night, I edited sample footage in my apartment. Found myself replaying a shot of her laughing at something Richard said. I froze the frame, studied her face. Then I closed the laptop when the porch light switched off below. A few weeks passed. I helped Claire with more events, became part of her irregular rotation of vendors. The money helped. More than that, though. I started to understand her rhythm, the way she moved through her house, the sounds she made, when she woke up, when she couldn't sleep. One Sunday it rained. I was heading out with an umbrella when I saw her struggling with grocery bags in the driveway. I helped. She insisted I come in for tea. First time I'd been properly inside the main house. Everything was clean, big, modern kitchen. But there were traces of a man still there. Ties draped over a chair, golf trophies on high shelves. "Daniel died in his sleep," she said while unpacking groceries. Matter of fact. "Heart attack. I woke up and he was just gone. I haven't been able to change much since. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry." She filled the kettle, set it on the stove. "Nobody knows what to do after they say it, though, so they just wait for you to be normal again." The kettle started to whistle softly, that rising sound before the boil. "I edit vows," I said. "For weddings, people's promises to each other. Sometimes I wish I could edit my own past the same way. Cut out the parts that don't make sense. Smooth over the gaps." She looked at me then. Really looked. "That would be nice," she said quietly. Mrs. Klein knocked, brought cookies, saw me in the kitchen and raised her eyebrows. "Ethan's just helping with groceries," Claire said. Laughed it off. But I saw the way Mrs. Klein looked at us, like she was taking notes. When I went back upstairs, I sat on my worn couch and looked at my cramped kitchenette, my cheap furniture. My whole life fit in one room. Hers filled an entire house she didn't want to be in. 2 weeks later, I met Richard properly. I was getting my mail when he pulled up. Evening. Warm. Claire greeted him with wine. She introduced us again. Formal this time. "Ethan saved my last wedding," she told him. Richard smiled. "That's great. Always good to have help with the little projects." There was that phrase again. We made small talk. Richard asked about my work, called it freelance stuff, asked if I was building toward something real. I said I was fine where I was. After he went inside, I stood by my car longer than I needed to, listened to the sound of their voices through the open window. Easy laughter. The clink of glasses. At the studio the next day, Liam asked how things were going. "Fine. You jealous of the doctor yet?" "What? No." "You sure? Because you've got that look." "What look?" "The one guys get when they're comparing themselves to someone who has more money and a better car and the girl they're not admitting they're into." I told him to shut up, but he wasn't wrong. Strategized narrative pacing to reach target word count across story acts. I'm at about 1,850 words. I need to continue through the engagement party, the cocktail dress breakdown, and move into Act 2 to reach around 4,000 words for Part 1. Let me continue with the key emotional beats. The engagement party happened a month later. Claire's backyard. Balloons, string lights. I was hired to handle sound and video. Richard's colleagues, other wedding vendors, Melissa, Mrs. Klein, neighbors, everyone congratulating Claire on her second chance. I filmed speeches, candid moments, Richard talking about their future, about starting a family, about how Claire had finally let him in. She smiled through all of it, but her eyes were somewhere else. In the kitchen, I found her gripping the counter, alone, catching her breath. "You okay?" She jumped, laughed. "Yeah, just a lot of people." "You plan weddings?" "Other people's weddings. This is different." She straightened, smoothed her dress. "I'm not built for this much attention on me." Later, Melissa cornered me by the drinks table. "Thanks for helping Claire," she said. "With the events." "No problem. She gives people looks sometimes, intense ones. Don't read into it." Melissa studied me. "She does that with everyone." She was trying to convince herself as much as me. I went upstairs to check an outlet. Claire found me in the hallway, away from the noise. "You ever feel like you're watching your own life?" she asked. "Like you're the audience instead of the person living it?" "Yeah," I said. "Sometimes." We stood there, too close. Too long. Then someone called her name, and she left. That night I watched from my window as Richard and Claire slow danced under the fading lights. Then she broke away, went inside quickly. He followed, looking confused. I closed my laptop, went to bed, tried not to think about it. 3 weeks later, Claire came up to my apartment late at night. She'd been at a wine tasting event, still in her cocktail dress, hair loose, lipstick smudged. She knocked. I opened the door. "Do you have a safety pin?" she asked. I did, but she didn't move to take it. She looked past me into my small space. "I don't want to go inside yet." I stepped aside. She came in. She walked around my apartment like she was discovering something. Touched my shelves, my equipment, my mismatched mugs. "This feels personal," she said. "My house feels like a set, like I'm staging someone else's life." She asked me to unzip her dress, said she couldn't breathe. My hands shook. I found the zipper, pulled it down slowly, careful. Her shoulders, her back, bare skin inches from me. She stepped away, wrapped herself in my thrifted blanket, sat on my couch in a slip. Then she started crying, not loud, just quiet tears. Steady. "Richard made a toast tonight," she said, "about taming my wild side. Everyone laughed, and I felt like I was disappearing." She looked at me, eyes red, vulnerable. "Promise me something," she whispered. "If I'm walking toward something that looks wrong, you'll see it before I do." I didn't know what to say. "I promise." She stayed for an hour. We didn't touch. We just talked. Small things. Big things. Everything. Eventually, she recomposed herself, pulled the dress back up, smoothed her hair. "Thank you," she said, "for letting me be nobody important for an hour." She left quietly, heels tapping down the stairs. I leaned against the door after she was gone. Heart pounding, her jasmine scent still in the air. The porch light stayed on longer than usual that night. The next morning she acted like nothing happened, handed me an envelope, her wedding invitation, formal, raised lettering, date set for 2 months away. "I want you to handle the audio," she said, "and some behind-the-scenes footage, as a gift." Her hand shook slightly when I took the invitation. I said yes. The next weeks blurred together. I filmed her tasting cakes, tested acoustics at the church, watched her study vow templates at her kitchen table. She kept distance. But our eyes met more often, both of us remembering that night without saying it. Mrs. Klein told me everyone was so relieved Claire is moving on. Late one night, I heard Claire downstairs, whispering, I do. Over and over, like she was trying to make the words sound right. They didn't. 3 weeks before the wedding, the countdown became real. My apartment wall had a calendar, red circle around the date. I filmed more B-roll. Claire. Organizing dresses, measuring the church aisle, instructing staff. She told me about a premarital counseling session. Richard told the counselor he was excited to bring stability to her life. She repeated that phrase to me like it left a bad taste. Stability, she said, like I'm a problem that needs fixing. I noticed her forgetting things. Keys, phone, leaving the kettle on. Once Richard called asking where she was, I covered, said she'd just stepped out. At the studio, Liam pushed me to take more outside jobs. You're too tangled up in this, he said. Move on before you can't. But I couldn't. Mrs. Klein mentioned someone saw Claire and Richard arguing in the driveway late at night. I didn't ask about it. At night, I'd lie awake listening to her pace below. The clink of her engagement ring against mugs, against countertops. The porch light would go off late, very late, both of us not sleeping. 2 weeks before the wedding, I went with Claire to the dress fitting. She stood in front of a mirror in white satin, veil, professional lighting. "What do you think?" she asked. Everyone else in the room gushed. Beautiful, perfect, stunning. I just said, "You look like yourself." She stared at me through the mirror. "Is that good?" "It's honest." On the drive back, her car smelled like jasmine and hairspray. Soft music played. "What do weddings mean to you?" she asked. "I don't know. Promises, I guess." "What if you're not sure you can keep the promise?" I didn't answer that. She admitted she felt like she was staging someone else's movie. Everyone expected a happy ending. She wasn't sure she belonged in the frame. When we got back, I carried the garment bag up to my apartment. Temporary storage, to protect it from Richard's surprise visit. I hung it from my curtain rod. White satin against my thrifted couch. My worn furniture, my cramped space. The contrast felt like something. 1 week before the wedding, the rehearsal dinner happened. Nice restaurant. I was there to capture speeches and ambient sound. Richard delivered a toast, joked about taming Claire again, about their practical grown-up love. Guests laughed. Claire smiled. But I was behind the camera. I saw her face when she thought no one was looking. During a break, she stepped outside to the patio. I followed to check outdoor speakers. We ended up alone under string lights. "I practiced my vows today," she said quietly. My voice stopped on, "I promise." I couldn't say it out loud. She looked at me. When I tried to picture saying those words, I kept thinking about your apartment, how I could breathe there. I stood very still. "You shouldn't promise anything you don't mean." "I know." Her voice cracked. "You're the only person in this whole process who feels real to me." We didn't touch, but the space between us felt charged, dangerous. "I should go back inside," she said. We went in separately. I filmed her returning to the coupe table. Face composed. Perfect. That night, listening to the recorded audio through my headphones, all I heard was forced laughter and clinking glasses that sounded hollow. The night before the wedding, it rained. I was in my apartment checking batteries and memory cards, making sure everything was ready. Claire texted. "Speaker issue downstairs. Could I help?" I went down, found her surrounded by gift bags and place cards, testing music for her processional. She tried to joke, but her hands shook scrolling through playlists. "I haven't been able to write my vows," she admitted. Melissa arrived halfway through, slightly drunk. Last-minute questions. She joked about us having a secret tech romance. We both denied it too quickly. After Melissa left, Claire and I were alone in the dim living room. "What makes a promise real?" she asked. "I don't know. Consistency, small acts, not just big speeches." She moved closer, then stopped herself. "I'm too tired to be anyone's mistake tonight," she said. "But tomorrow, just capture whatever happens, okay?" "Okay." I went back upstairs, watched through my window as she stood alone in her kitchen. Lights dimmed, ring glinting against the counter where she leaned. I turned off my light. Only the porch light glowed between us. Wedding morning came with pale sunlight and a quiet street. My alarm went off early. I got up immediately. Nerves buzzing through me. I filmed establishing shots. The empty church, the venue, Claire sipping coffee in a silk robe in her kitchen. She gave me a garment bag, a checklist. Our conversation was functional, but the tension underneath felt like a held breath. Richard stopped by briefly, dropped something off. I overheard him tell her, "After tonight, everything calms down." She didn't respond. There were small emergencies. Late florist, bridesmaid stuck in traffic, Claire solved everything for everyone, barely holding herself together. In the car to the church, Claire sat in the back with Melissa. I was in front with the driver. Her gaze kept drifting to the rain on the window, then to the back of my headrest. At the church, I set up cameras, microphones, tested audio in the empty sanctuary. My voice echoed back. Sound check, sound check. Claire disappeared into the bridal room. I heard muffled bridesmaid chatter through the door. I checked my equipment one more time, adjusted angles. The weight of what was coming pressed down on everything. An hour later, guests filled the pews. The organist played softly. I positioned myself at the front, camera ready. Through a small side window, I could see Claire waiting with her uncle. Veil down, taking deep breaths. The processional music began. Bridesmaids walked, one by one. Then it was Claire's turn. She took one step forward, then another. Then she stopped. I watched through my camera, saw her bouquet shaking, saw her uncle whisper something, probably about nerves. She stood, there for what felt like forever. Then she stepped backward instead of forward, whispered something I couldn't hear, turned away, slipped out a side door. Gasps spread through the church. Melissa chased after her. I kept the camera rolling, heart racing. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I couldn't check it, not with everyone watching, confused, whispering. I pretended to adjust equipment, packed up quickly, got to my car, hands shaking, checked my phone. One text from Claire. "Can you meet me at your place?" I drove back through light rain, knuckles white on the steering wheel. When I pulled behind the house, I saw her at the bottom of the stairs, still in her wedding dress, veil askew, mascara streaked down her face. She started climbing toward me, slowly, one hand on the railing, white satin dragging on wet wood. I opened my door. She stepped inside. Her dress soaked the entryway mat. We stood there in silence. Then she said, voice breaking, "I couldn't say I do to him." I stared at her. White satin, mascara streaks, trembling hands. "Why not?" I asked. She looked around my apartment like she was searching for something, then back at me. I was standing there, looking down that aisle, everyone watching, and Richard was smiling like we'd already made it to the finish line. She touched her veil, pulled it off, let it fall. All I could think about was him calling our relationship practical. About years of being taken care of but never really known. She sat down on my couch, satin pooled around her. Every time I tried to picture calm, I pictured here, your apartment, this cramped space where I could breathe. I didn't know what to do, so I made tea. The kettle clicked, started whistling, that familiar sound. I handed her the mug. She wrapped both hands around it. "Can you—" She turned slightly, showed me the back of her dress. "I can't breathe in this thing." I hesitated, then started on the buttons. Small, difficult. My hands shook, her bare shoulders, inches from me, her breathing steadier with each button undone. She stood, went to my bathroom, came back in my oversized sweatshirt and sweatpants. The wedding dress hung from my curtain rod like a ghost. We made toast, stood at the sink eating it, not talking. "What happens now?" I finally asked. "I don't know." We sat on the edge of my bed, side by side, not touching. "You were the only place today that didn't feel like a set," she whispered. She leaned forward, pressed her forehead to mine. I stopped breathing. Her lips brushed against mine, soft, hesitant, trembling. I kissed her back, just once, brief, gentle. Then we both pulled away, sat there in stunned silence. Outside, car doors slammed, distant voices getting closer. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Again, again, again. Mrs. Klein's dog started barking below. The outside world was closing in. Claire grabbed her phone. Dozens of missed calls. Richard. Melissa. Unknown numbers. "They're looking for me," she said. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know. I just needed—" She stopped. Looked at the window. "Is that Richard's car?" I pulled the blind back slightly. His car in the driveway. He got out. Jaw tight. "He's going to the house," I said. Claire stood quickly, panicked. "If he comes up here and sees me—" She looked at the wedding dress hanging in my window, visible from outside. "This destroys everything. For you. For me." "Claire, don't follow me. Don't say anything." She pulled on her coat over my sweatshirt. Rushed down the stairs. I stood at the window, heard Richard's voice, loud. "Where the hell were you?" "I drove around. I needed air." "You left me at the altar. You embarrassed me in front of everyone." "I know. I'm sorry." Another car pulled up. Melissa. More voices, overlapping. I couldn't make out words. I texted Claire. No response. Called. Voicemail. "I'm sorry," I said to the recording. "For the kiss. For not doing more. For everything." I waited by the window, watching shadows move behind curtains. 2 hours later, the cars left. All of them. The house went dark. I tried calling again. Nothing. That night, I barely slept. 2 days passed. The church called asking about footage. I told them I'd have it ready soon. Melissa left a voicemail. "Thanks for keeping things professional that day. Claire needed space, and I'm glad she had somewhere safe to think." I saw a social media update from a wedding vendor. Wedding postponed. No other explanation. Claire didn't respond to my texts, my calls. I went to work, came home, made tea, listened to the silence from below. The porch light stayed off. On the third day, I came home from the studio and saw a "for sale" sign in Claire's front yard. I stood there staring at it. Mrs. Klein appeared with her dog. "Such a shame," she said. "Claire called off the wedding. Everyone's worried. Melissa says she's taking time away. Probably for the best." "Time away?" "Just away." Mrs. Klein studied me. "You didn't know?" "No." She walked on, left me standing there. I tried calling Claire one more time, texted, "I'll give you space." That night I watched her window from mine, saw a shadow move, just once, a silhouette standing still, then darkness again. The porch light didn't come on. Over the next week I kept checking the driveway. Her car appeared once, then gone again. I saw Richard's car. Then not at all. Melissa came by, left with boxes, eyes red. At the studio, Liam asked if I was okay. "Yeah." "You should move out," he said, "before it gets weird." Maybe. But I didn't. Not yet. I kept waiting, hoping she'd knock on my door, explain everything, tell me what that kiss meant. She didn't. Late one night, I saw her silhouette in her bedroom window, lights off, just standing there. I wanted to go to her, say something, anything, but I'd promised to give her space. So I just watched, until she stepped back into darkness. The porch light stayed off. A week later, Melissa knocked on my door. Saturday afternoon. She had wine and 2 glasses. "Can I come in?" I let her. She poured wine, sat on my couch, looked exhausted. "Did Claire come up here that day?" she asked. Direct. I hesitated. "Yes." "For how long?" "Maybe an hour." She needed to breathe before deciding what to do. Melissa nodded slowly. She told me she couldn't promise something that didn't feel true. She wouldn't say more than that. I think she made the right choice. Maybe. Melissa took a long drink. But Richard's pissed. He's connected. Hospital board. Wedding industry. If he suspects you were involved, it could get messy for your work, for Claire's reputation. I know. But appearances matter. She looked at me, not unkindly. You should find another apartment, not because I think you did something wrong, because it's easier for everyone. After she left, I opened my laptop, started looking at rental listings, found one above a coffee shop in the city. Small, noisy, but affordable enough. I applied. 2 weeks later, I got an email. Real estate agent handling Claire's property. The house was being listed. I needed to vacate in 60 days. I read it 3 times. That afternoon, I saw Claire in the driveway, talking to the agent. She looked thinner, tired. We made eye contact. She walked over. Slowly. Hi. Hi. You got the email? Yeah. I'm sorry about the short notice. She glanced at the agent, back at me. I appreciate your understanding, Mr. Ward. Mr. Ward. That hurt more than the eviction notice. I wanted to say something real, ask her if she was okay, if that kiss meant anything, if she thought about me at night the way I thought about her. But the agent was watching, so I just nodded. Good luck with the sale. She walked away. I watched her go. At the studio, Liam helped me search for apartments. We toured a room above the coffee shop. Noisy, small, but it would work. You'll be closer to the studio, Liam said. Better commute. Yeah. You okay? No. He didn't push. I signed the lease that week. My parents called, offered to let me move home temporarily. I said no. Moving day came on a cloudy morning. Liam helped load boxes into a rented van. We joked to keep things light, but my chest felt heavy. Mrs. Klein stopped by, gave me a small plant. The street will be quieter without your creaky stairs, she said, almost sadly. Then Claire appeared in her doorway. She walked over, slowly. Thank you, she said, for everything, the work, the help. What about you? I asked. What are you doing next? Taking a break from weddings, starting over somewhere smaller. I wanted to say more, apologize for the kiss, for being part of the day she ran. She cut me off gently. I don't want to rewrite that day out loud yet. We stood there, 2 feet apart. Lifetime between us. Take care, she said. You too. No hug, no kiss, just a long look. I drove away, watched the porch light in my side mirror. It was off. I didn't look back. The coffee shop apartment smelled like espresso and pastries, constant background noise, cramped stairwell, unfamiliar sounds. No jasmine, no creaky wooden stairs, no porch light. I unpacked slowly, set up my equipment, tried to settle in. At night, the city hummed. Traffic, sirens, voices on the street, different from the quiet suburban nights at Claire's. 2 weeks in, I saw an update online. Whitmore Weddings temporarily closed for restructuring. No other explanation. I closed my laptop, stared at the ceiling. The chapter with the porch light was over. 3 months later, I was doing better financially. More clients, better workflow. Liam had helped connect me with other studios, but I felt hollow. Liam set me up on a coffee date with a friend. Nice woman, age appropriate. We talked about movies, work, normal things. All I did was compare her to Claire. Her perfume wasn't right, her laugh was different, the way she held her coffee mug wrong. I went home feeling guilty. I checked Claire's old business website sometimes. It said, "Coming soon, reimagined." No social media updates, no clues. I wondered where she was, what she was doing, if she thought about me. But I didn't investigate. Out of respect and fear, I decorated my apartment a bit, bought a better couch, worked late nights. The kettle still whistled. But there was no porch light across the way, just a neon coffee shop sign. One night I lay awake and realized I hadn't heard Claire's voice in months. "Maybe that's for the best," I whispered to the dark. The city traffic hummed back at me. A few weeks later, I was up late. Around 2 a.m., finishing an edit, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then I opened it. A photo. A warm light glowing in a window, above what looked like a florist shop. The message, "Top floor, above the florist." I stared at it, confused, zoomed in, saw a reflection in the glass. Claire. My heart stopped. I walked to my window, looked out across the street. Above the florist, directly opposite my building, a light was on. Top floor window. A figure moved to the glass. Claire. Hair in a messy bun. No ring. Older somehow. Softer. We stared at each other across the dark street, separated by glass and pavement. Neither of us waved. Another text came through. "Didn't know you lived right there until I saw you in the window tonight." Then another. "I rented this space recently. Smaller studio, more personal. Didn't pick it for you, but..." She trailed off. I stood there, phone in hand, heart pounding. She was across the street. Right there, after months of silence. I didn't go downstairs. She didn't cross the street. We just stood in our separate windows. Two lights glowing in the darkness. Like two porch lights facing each other. The next morning I walked out of my building and nearly collided with Claire coming out of the florist entrance. She held a box of fabrics. Hair pulled back, no makeup. "Hi," she said. Smiled. "Hi." We laughed at the absurdity. Neighbors again. Different context. Different city. We got coffee at the shop downstairs. Talked about the last few months. She explained selling the house, staying with a cousin, seeing a therapist, rebuilding her business smaller, more honest. "What about Richard?" I asked. "We talked once. I apologized. He said he couldn't understand. I told him that was fair. We haven't spoken since." I told her about my work. The new clients, the coffee shop noise I'd gotten used to. "About the kiss," she said. "And the wedding." "I'm sorry. Don't be." She looked at me. "I don't regret running, but I'm still figuring out what part was about you and what part was about me, about Daniel, about everything." "I understand." "I need boundaries this time," she said. "No late-night emotional breakdowns. No pretending the past didn't happen. But also, no rushing into labels." Okay. Over the next weeks, a routine developed. Claire dropped off leftover flowers from my workspace. I helped carry heavy props up her steep stairs. We sometimes shared lunch on a bench outside, all very public, very low-key. Liam met her one day at the coffee shop, put together who she was. Gave me a long look later. "So that's the landlord?" "Yeah. You good?" "Getting there." Melissa visited Claire's studio once, saw me across the street, gave me a half-suspicious, half-resigned nod. Life settled into something new. Not what it was before. Not what I'd imagined. Just something. By early autumn, the air was cooler. Leaves collected on sidewalks. My life had found a rhythm. Work, city noise, occasional dinners with Liam, regular but measured interactions with Claire. Her studio above the florist was thriving quietly. Intimate weddings, elopements, focusing on authenticity instead of spectacle. I handled audio and video for some of them. Always as a hired professional. Clean boundaries. We texted sometimes. Jokes about overdramatic clients, logistical questions about equipment. Nothing heavy. One day she arranged sample bouquets by her window while I edited at my desk across the street. We caught each other's eye, smiled, went back to work. We never talked about being together. Never made plans beyond coffee and collaboration. The age gap was still there, the history, the shared secrets, the almost marriage she ran from in my apartment. All of it acknowledged, none of it dramatized. We just existed in each other's orbit, carefully, honestly. One late night, I was working by my window. Saw her across the street in her studio, cleaning up, moving slowly. We both paused at the same time, felt the weight of the parallel. Two people, two lit windows, a dark street between them. I thought about doors, the ones I'd walked through, moving to the city, taking new clients, building something different, the ones I'd closed, moving out of her house, letting go of what might have been. And this one, the one with Claire, still cracked open, light spilling through, not flung wide, not shut, just there. I looked across at her window. She was looking back. We held that gaze for a moment. Then both returned to our work. I felt something settle in my chest. Not closure, not resolution, just acceptance. Some things don't get neat endings. They just keep existing, quietly, honestly, in the spaces between what was and what could be. That night, I lay in bed staring at my ceiling. City sounds drifted up. Car horns, distant music, someone laughing on the street, different from the quiet suburban nights, the muffled TV, the creaky stairs, the porch light clicking off. But not worse, just different. I thought about that morning. Claire in her wedding dress, mascara streaked, standing at my door. I couldn't say I do to him. I thought about the kiss. Brief, trembling, real. I thought about the months of silence, the move, the distance, the slow, careful rebuilding. I didn't know where this was going, if it was going anywhere. Maybe that was okay. Maybe some stories don't need to resolve. They just need to be honest. From my window, I could see her studio light still glowing. She was probably working late, too. Finishing bouquets, planning someone else's beginning. I closed my eyes, listened to the city hum, thought about doors left cracked, lights left on, and the strange comfort of someone existing across the street. Not in your space, not in your bed, just there, in their own window, with their own light, close enough to see, far enough to breathe. Some doors you walk through, some you close, and some you just leave cracked with the light still on. The next morning, I woke to my alarm, got ready for work, grabbed coffee from the shop downstairs. The barista knew my order now. As I walked out, I saw Claire across the street. She was opening her studio, unlocking the door. Hair in a ponytail, simple dress, no ring. She looked up. Saw me. We raised our coffee cups at each other. A small, ordinary gesture. She smiled. I smiled back. Then we both went inside our separate buildings. Started our separate days. No dramatic moment. No grand declaration. Just two people. Two routines. Two lights that sometimes stayed on late across from each other. That evening I edited audio at my desk. Heard the coffee shop closing below. Watched her studio light click on across the street. My phone buzzed. Text from Claire. Guy today asked if I believe in second chances. Didn't know how to answer, I typed back. What did you say? I said I believe in honest ones. I smiled at my screen. Typed. Good answer. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Thanks for being across the street. I looked out my window, saw her silhouette at hers. Thanks for being there too, I typed. We stayed like that for a while, working in our separate spaces, occasionally glancing up. The city moved around us. Life continued. People walked by without knowing our story. And maybe that was the point. Not every connection has to become something. Not every moment has to lead somewhere. Sometimes it's enough to just exist in the same space, breathing the same air, sharing the same strange, accidental timing. I thought about that morning she showed up at my door. The wedding dress, the tears, the kiss. I thought about the months after, the silence, the moving, the slow return. And I thought about now, the coffee cups, the texts, the lights in the windows. None of it was what I expected. None of it was what she planned. But it was real, messy, honest. And maybe that was better than any perfect ending we could have written. I looked across the street one more time before bed. Her light was still on. I left mine on too. Two small glows in the darkness, not quite together, not quite apart. Just there, with the door cracked, and the light still on. If she had said, "I do," would you tell her she was wrong to stay?